Evan Harrington's heart pounded as he raced through Central Park, his eyes locked on the stranger, holding his son Noah in his arms. The man was gently rocking the boy, who was smiling up at him, as if they shared a secret, and in that moment, Evan's carefully built world threatened to crumble. The spring afternoon sun bathed the park in warm golden light, but Evan felt only ice in his veins. He had left a critical board meeting mid-sentence when the nanny Sarah texted him in panic Noah had wandered near the lake, and a stranger had picked him up. At 39, Evan ran one of the most innovative tech companies in the country. Harrington Tech, valued at over $2 billion, focused on ethical artificial intelligence and sustainable energy. He had fought tooth and nail to build it after coming out publicly in his late 20s, losing some investors but gaining loyal ones who believe in his vision. Fatherhood had been his anchor after his ex-partner Derek walked out 2 years earlier, unable to handle the demands of raising a child, while Evan chased expansion. Noah, 4 years old, born through surrogacy with Evan's own biological contribution, was the one person who made all the late nights and public scrutiny worth it. Now seeing this tall, dark-haired man in a simple button-down shirt cradling Noah like he belonged there sent every protective instinct into overdrive. Evan skidded to a stop on the grass, his expensive shoes sinking slightly, his tailored suit jacket flapping open. Noah, the man called out softly, pointing at a family of ducks on the water. The stranger looked up, his brown eyes calm and steady, not the eyes of someone with bad intentions. He carefully lowered Noah to the ground, keeping a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. "Sir, I know how this looks, but he was about to step into the water. I just picked him up to keep him safe. My name is Micah Bennett." Evan scooped Noah into his arms, feeling the boy's small body melt against him instantly. Noah wrapped his arms around his neck. "Daddy, the man knows about the big ducks, and he told me a story about trains." Evan glared at the stranger, his voice low and commanding the same tone that closed multimillion-dollar deals. "You have 10 seconds to explain who you are before my security team arrives, and this becomes a police matter. How did you even get close to my son?" The nanny Sarah arrived, breathless, her face flushed. "Mr. Harrington," I turned for 1 second to answer a call about my mother, and Noah slipped away. He is so fast these days. This gentleman was already there helping. Micah pulled out his wallet slowly and offered a business card and his driver's license. Micah Bennett, Ph.D., licensed child psychologist with a practice in Midtown. I was on my lunch break, sitting on that bench over there, when I saw him toddling toward the edge. I have references if you need them, and my phone shows I had an appointment nearby this morning. Evan's security, 2 discreet men in dark suits, appeared within moments and began verifying the information. Evan held Noah tighter, studying Micah. There was something disarming about the man, his posture relaxed yet respectful, his voice warm without being overly familiar. Evan's private investigator would have a full report by morning, but for now the facts checked out: no criminal record, solid professional reputation. Still, trust was a luxury Evan rarely afforded, especially when it came to Noah. After the surrogacy process with the agency he had chosen carefully, he had kept the relationship professional, sending thank you notes and generous compensation, but never staying in touch beyond the required medical updates. Becoming a single dad had taught him to guard every boundary fiercely. As the security team stepped back, Evan exhaled slowly. "Thank you for stepping in. But next time, find the parent immediately." Micah nodded, his eyes softening as he looked at Noah, who waved shyly. "Of course, Mr. Harrington. Kids that age have minds of their own. Take care, little guy." He turned to leave, but Noah called out, "Bye, Duckman." Micah smiled over his shoulder, a genuine warm smile that lingered in Evan's mind longer than it should have. Back in the penthouse that evening, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering Manhattan skyline, Evan sat in his home office, Noah already asleep down the hall, clutching his favorite stuffed train. The city lights sparkled like distant promises, but Evan's thoughts were heavy. He dialed his private investigator. "Dig everything on Micah Bennett, psychologist, single, gay, from what I can tell. I want it clean and thorough." Hanging up, Evan poured a glass of scotch, the amber liquid catching the light. He remembered the day Noah was born, the overwhelming rush of love as he held a tiny newborn, the way it filled the void left by Derek's betrayal. The media had called him a trailblazer, the gay billionaire dad, but behind the headlines there were sleepless nights and the constant fear that one misstep could cost him everything he loved. Seeing another man hold Noah so naturally had cracked something open, a reminder that his world was not as impenetrable as he believed. The next morning over breakfast, Noah chattered endlessly about the Duckman and how he wanted to see him again. Evan smiled despite himself, making a mental note to take the afternoon off for once. Little did he know this chance encounter was the first thread pulling at the carefully woven fabric of his solitary life, unraveling secrets and possibilities he had never dared to imagine. The truth, waiting in the wings, would force him to question every wall he had built and every sacrifice he had made in the name of protection. The following day, Evan found himself standing outside a modest office building in Midtown, his driver idling at the curb. He had not planned to reach out so soon, but Noah's persistent questions about the Duckman combined with the investigator's clean report had worn down his resistance. Micah Bennett answered the door to his practice himself, dressed in a light blue shirt, sleeves rolled up, looking surprised but pleased. "Mr. Harrington, what a surprise. Is everything okay with Noah?" Evan stepped inside the waiting room, warm and inviting with colorful children's books and soft lighting. "Noah is fine, but he keeps talking about you. I thought perhaps a quick thank you coffee if you have time." Micah smiled that same disarming smile and led him to a small balcony overlooking the busy street below. They sat with 2 cups of coffee, the spring breeze carrying the scent of street vendors and blooming flowers. Evan felt oddly exposed in this casual setting, far from his boardroom armor. Micah leaned back, his eyes thoughtful. "I grew up in a small town in Ohio where being different wasn't always easy. Became a psychologist because I wanted to help kids like I once was navigate family stuff. My own family struggled with acceptance when I came out in college. It took years to build the life I have here in the city." Evan listened, the words hitting closer than he expected. He shared briefly about building Harrington Tech from nothing, the pressure of being openly gay in a cutthroat industry, and how Noah had become his reason for everything. "Derek left because he couldn't handle the spotlight or the responsibility," he said quietly, his voice steady but laced with old pain. "I promised myself Noah would never feel that kind of abandonment." Their conversation flowed easier than Evan anticipated, Micah asking gentle questions about Noah's favorite games and listening without judgment. By the time they finished the coffee, Evan found himself inviting Micah to join them for a casual park visit the next weekend. As he left the office, Evan caught himself glancing back, Micah waving from the balcony. That night in the penthouse, Evan stood on his own balcony, the city sprawling below, and felt a rare sense of calm. For the first time in years, he wondered what it might feel like to share the weight of fatherhood with someone who understood. The weekend outing in Central Park was simple, Noah running between them, chasing a ball, Micah laughing as he joined in. Evan watched them, his chest tightening with a mix of joy and unease. Micah was patient, explaining simple science facts about the trees to Noah in a way that made the boy beam. Later, as Noah napped on a blanket under a tree, the 2 men sat side by side. Micah spoke softly about losing his sister Sarah to illness 2 years earlier, how she had been his biggest supporter through his own struggles. "She always wanted to help families, Evan. That's why she became a surrogate." The words hung between them, and Evan felt a pang, realizing he had never followed up on Sarah's life beyond the birth. As the sun dipped lower, Evan drove home with Noah asleep in the back seat, his mind replaying Micah's stories. The man was kind, grounded, everything Derek had not been. Yet Evan knew opening the door, even a crack, could invite complications he was not sure he could handle. The truth of their growing connection was still hidden beneath layers of caution, but was beginning to surface, pulling him toward a future he had convinced himself he did not need. Weeks turned into a comfortable rhythm. Micah joined family dinners at the penthouse, bringing simple homemade cookies that Noah devoured with glee. Evan found himself looking forward to the evenings, the way Micah helped with bedtime stories, his voice steady and warm. One evening after Noah was tucked in, they sat on the balcony, wine glasses in hand, the skyline twinkling. Evan opened up about the early days of single fatherhood, the fear that his work would steal moments he could never get back. Micah shared his own regrets about not reconciling with parts of his past family before it was too late. "I learned the hard way that chosen family can heal what blood sometimes breaks," he said quietly. Their friendship deepened, but so did the misunderstandings. A tabloid photographer snapped photos of them laughing in the park, the headline hinting at the billionaire CEO and his mysterious new companion. Evan's assistant forwarded the article, his face tight. "The board is asking questions, sir, about stability and public image." Evan felt the old walls rising, the pressure to appear untouchable. He confronted Micah the next day at the office, not accusing, but guarded. "This attention could affect my company, and more importantly, Noah." Micah listened, his expression hurt but understanding. "I would never do anything to jeopardize that, Evan." If you need space, I understand. The tension lingered for days, Evan throwing himself into merger negotiations to avoid the feelings stirring inside. No one noticed, asking repeatedly when Duckman was coming over. Finally, Evan called Micah, apologizing in a way that felt foreign to his CEO persona. They met at a quiet cafe where Micah revealed more about Sarah. She kept in touch with me after the birth, Evan. She worried you might carry too much alone. Her last letter mentioned hoping someone like me could be there if you ever needed it. The words landed like a revelation, the surrogate connection deeper than Evan had known. As they walked back through the city streets side by side, Evan felt the first crack in his armor. The truth of Sarah's wish and Micah's quiet presence was rewriting the narrative he had told himself about needing no one. Yet societal whispers and boardroom doubts loomed, threatening the fragile bond forming between them. The revelation came on a rainy afternoon in the penthouse kitchen, sunlight struggling through the clouds. Micah had brought over old photos of Sarah from their childhood, the three of them poring over them with Noah on the floor playing. As Noah napped, Evan read the final letter Sarah had left for Micah, the one he had carried for months before finding the courage to deliver it in person. In it, Sarah wrote of her deep respect for Evan and her hope that Micah could offer the friendship she saw Evan needed. The truth hit Evan hard. Sarah had seen his loneliness, even from a distance, and entrusted her brother to watch over the family she helped create. This changes nothing, and everything Evan said, his voice thick with emotion. You came into our lives because of her wish. Micah nodded, his eyes glistening. I didn't plan to stay or to feel this connection, but Noah and you have become important to me in ways I can't ignore. They talked for hours about identity, the pressures of being gay in professional worlds, Micah's work with children from rejected families, and Evan's battle to prove a gay single dad could thrive at the top. That evening after Micah left, Evan stood in Noah's room, watching his son sleep, the truth settling like a warm blanket. The stranger holding his son had not been random, but a bridge to healing. Yet the external world, pressed in a rival company, leaked the tabloid story to shareholders, questioning Evan's focus. The board called an emergency meeting, demanding assurances. Evan defended his personal life, fiercely realizing for the first time that protecting his heart was as important as protecting his empire. The misunderstanding with a well-meaning friend who assumed Micah was just a nanny led to a heated argument between Evan and Micah the next day. You think I see you as temporary? Micah asked, hurt flashing in his eyes. Evan apologized, pulling him into a brief hug, the first physical contact that felt like more than friendship. The truth of their growing feelings was out in the open, now forcing decisions that would test everything. Family tensions rose when Evan's conservative parents visited from Connecticut for Noah's birthday. They had never fully accepted his lifestyle, and the presence of Micah at the celebration raised eyebrows. Who's this man really? His mother asked privately, her tone laced with concern. Evan defended Micah as a close friend and positive influence, but the dinner was strained, conversation stilted. Micah handled it with grace, sharing stories of his work that even softened his father's skepticism slightly. At work, the pressure mounted. A major merger hung in the balance, with partners wary of any perceived instability. Evan sacrificed a weekend trip to the Hamptons with Noah and Micah to attend emergency calls, but the time apart made him realize how much he missed their presence. Back in the city, they shared a quiet balcony conversation where Micah confessed his own fears of rejection from past relationships. I don't want to be another person who leaves, Evan. The vulnerability mirrored Evan's own, and they sat in silence, hands brushing the city humming below. A crisis with Noah catching a bad cold brought them closer, Micah staying overnight to help with care, his expertise as a psychologist easing the boy's fears. Watching them together, Evan felt the shift from friendship to something deeper, the truth of chosen family, rewriting his definition of home. Yet a betrayal from a former colleague who sold details to the press escalated the media storm, forcing Evan to confront how his choices affected everyone he loved. The business crisis peaked when the board voted to delay the merger, citing public perception issues around Evan's personal life. Evan faced them in the sleek conference room, sunlight streaming through glass walls, his voice steady. My family makes me stronger, not weaker. He stepped back from daily operations, temporarily sacrificing control he had guarded for years to focus on what mattered. Micah supported him quietly, helping with Noah during long days of strategy sessions. They escaped to the Hamptons for a weekend, the ocean breeze clearing their heads. On the beach, Noah built sandcastles between them, the three laughing as waves lapped at their feet. In a quiet moment on the deck, Micah and Evan shared a tender embrace, the first real acknowledgement of their feelings. The truth Sarah's wish and their own hearts had led them here, but societal prejudice and family doubt still loomed. Evan realized the sacrifice of time from work was worth the peace he found with Micah and Noah. Back in the city, a court-related formality over the surrogacy records confirmed everything legal and clean, but the emotional truth had already transformed them. Misunderstandings with friends who questioned the speed of the connection tested their bond, but each conversation strengthened it. Hyson became real when Evan turned down a lucrative international deal to attend Noah's school play with Micah by his side. The media frenzy died down as positive stories emerged about the blended family, the CEO prioritizing fatherhood. Evan's parents slowly warmed, seeing the genuine care Micah showed. Internal conflicts resolved as Evan admitted his fear of loss had kept him isolated for too long. High points came during a rooftop dinner, the city lights below, where they talked about future possibilities, co-parenting, and more. A health scare with Noah brought them to the hospital, where they held vigil together, the truth of their partnership shining through. Evan woke up to the realization that love was not a weakness but the foundation he had been missing. Micah too grew, finding purpose beyond his practice in building this family. The climax resolved with the merger closing successfully on Evan's new terms, the board applauding his balanced leadership. Evan and Micah stood on the rooftop terrace, Noah, between them the sunset painting the sky in vibrant hues. They had faced betrayal, misunderstandings, societal judgment, and personal doubts, but emerged stronger. The journey from stranger holding a child to partner in life had rewritten Evan's world, teaching him that family was built on trust, choice, and unwavering presence. As they watched the city lights flicker on, Evan pulled Micah close, Noah giggling between them. The truth behind that park encounter had not destroyed but completed him. True or false, family is defined more by the bonds we build than by blood alone.